far across the seas, in an ancient land, a legendary monster has been awakened. Hi, and welcome to the third round of the Missed Apex iRacing Championship as we journey to Japan, where the iconic Suzuka circuit lies in wait. From the diabolical Degners to the savage S's to the riggers of 130R, drivers will have no quarter on this unforgiving track. To get us underway today, please give a warm welcome to your special guest commentator, Stuffy!
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to this round 3 of the Missed Apex iRacing Championship. We are this week at the beautiful, wonderful, free-flowing Suzuka circuit that is a fan favourite of those across the platform. It is really suitable to the open wheel cars that we have on offer for us today and in this championship this year. We have the F4 car that will be the first race this evening, with the Formula 3 car following that up and the Super Formula car. Now the format is as always, we have the F4 car which will have an open qualifying session whereby the top 20 will be a reverse grid for the second race in the F3, and then likewise the same will occur for the last race in the most powerful Super Formula car. So we start off in the F4 cars, which our drivers are in at this moment in time, out on circuit, getting those all-important sighting laps in, ready for this open qualifying session. And personally, I cannot wait for this evening. This is a track that I've had my very ups and downs here personally, but I can't wait to commentate on this for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it while our main commentator Chris Stevens continues with his fledgling real life career at this moment. So hopefully I will be here doing a good job in his stead. But at the moment we're on board with Tim Ellis, who is in P4, and we have Luke Power in P1, who I've personally raced against here in this series on this very track. He's been a strong candidate. We have Danny Henney in P2, who is looking for redemption after a poor showing at Charlotte Roval last time around. And of course, this evening there is an opportunity for a number of drivers to gain all important points, because our championship leader, Bradley Philpott, is unable to make this evening's race. There is a 1-round drop though within this 8-round championship. So yes, Bradley won't be too hard done by missing this week, but it does give an opportunity for those who are not far behind, the likes of Greg Gomez, Alexander Dubitsberger, Tim and James Gill, to get those all-important points, get those wins, and make the opportunity of while the championship leader isn't here. But yes, let's see what else is going to be in store for us this evening. The F4 car is a bit slower, of course, than the F3 car and the Super Formula car. So the difficulty of this circuit is only going to increase as the top speed of these cars increase as well. But the F4 car does provide very, very close racing, especially down into turn 1, where we often see a lot of side-by-side action with that double apex. It is difficult to defend on the inside and the outside, so I'm sure we're going to see plenty of action through that first corner and the rest of the circuit, with such iconic corners as the Senna S's, the Dunlop corner, the Degners Spoon corner, and of course the most famous of those, 130R. On board with Alex Dubitsberger, who is our third place position in the championship, and actually third place on the grid at the moment in practice. The tow is going to be important here in this F4 car during qualifying session. So track position is going to be key as they line up to get out of the pits in the open qualifying. Not much dirty air is provided off of these F4 cars. That is more so the case the quicker the cars get, where they have a much more complicated aero package. But yes, F4, we'll see if the likes of Luke Power is going to be able to maintain that top position. Only 1.5 tenths quicker than Danny at the moment. And heading down to those in the silver category, 20th position. We're expecting a good turnout for this evening. hopefully there'll be plenty of action up and down the grid that we can keep an eye out on. So let's have a look at the championship tables as it stands. On second thoughts, let's have a look at the recap of what occurred at Charlotte Roval last time around.
Season 8, Round 2 of the Missed Apex iRacing played out on the steep banking of the Charlotte Roval.
We are underway for the first race of the night. Danny Henney already getting up into third place.
Gomez, Philpott and Henney took the early lead and went at it hard and fast.
There goes Brad on the inside, making a move on Greg, and this is going to allow Danny to get on the back of him as well. Danny is trying to go round the outside, and Greg holds on.
Dobertsberger came after Gill, looking for a place on the podium.
And here goes Alex Dotsberger side by side, and Steve Williams there ready to pounce. They're going to make it 3 wide on the oval.
Then, from second place, Greg Gomez made one small mistake that ruined his race, and also Danny Henney.
Gomez in the wall. I think Henney might have made contact with him as well.
With Gomez out and Henney compromised, Gill and Williams jumped in to fill the void.
Stephen Williams trying to make a move on Gill as well. Did he make it 2 in 1? Oh, what is beautiful.
In the closing stages of the race, it was Kyle Power who was the big mover.
Back on board with Power, trying to get third place away from James Gill. So Gill will have the inside line, but if anyone can make it work, it's Kyle Power. He gets himself up into third position.
In the end, Kyle couldn't catch the leading pair and had to be content with a well-earned third place.
It's been a dominant display by Brad as he comes across and wins the first race of the evening. Alexander Dobertsberger in P2 and Kyle Power in third.
The first reverse grid race saw our fearless leader kicking off from the front row.
It's lights out now. Marafkani not getting the best of starts. The Spanish draws up alongside him.
There was a little bit of a biffo at the very first corner, but Spanners kept it clean and eventually took the lead.
This is brilliant racing in the opening stages of this reverse grid race, and Spanners finally can get the lead.
Gomez and Henney came storming through the pack, but the crash fairies weren't being kind to Danny.
Danny Henney trying to make it 3 wide, but Marafkani over the front of Henney's car.
Just a little bit too close for comfort there for Danny.
Spanners finally succumbed to both Gomez and David Hatton, but fought on valiantly.
But once David has finally got ahead of Spanners, but Spanners is now tucked up in the toe, and now we have the grudge match of Jeansy and Spanners.
Spanners did hang on to his third place, but Greg Gomez took the win and David Hatton held on to second.
Gomez coming over the line, and he takes victory, and David Hatton in second place.
Race 3, the Super Formula race, started with some now familiar first corner carnage.
And big drama as Cox has been collected, and we've basically got a traffic jam at the first corner.
When it cleared, Brad Philpott, Daniel Snortland and Frick Smith were the front runners, but the big mover was Alex Smith.
Look how close he is through the infield section now, and looking at the inside, almost has his nose chopped off there.
Wow, that was close. Oh, it's Mark got a slowdown there.
Brad Philpott extended his lead from James Gill, and further back, Gregoire Gomez had found some added speed.
Gomez has got to play for the leader for a couple of corners, but then we'll have another opportunity when they get back onto the banking. But screw that, he's going up the inside.
The commentators were being very effusive about the youngster James Gill.
James Gill's just been so impressive. He was brilliant in the Silver Class Championship, won that last season, promoted straight to the Platinum Class, and he's proving why.
But I guess you've all heard about the infamous commentator's curse.
About being the lead car, James loses it. He's pushing too hard.
Yes, it struck again, leaving Brad Philpott way out in front for an easy win, followed by Alex Smith in second and Mark Greenhow in third.
Checker flag is out, and Brad Philpott takes the win. Alex Smith in second position, Mark Greenhow in third place.
So what an eventful last round that was, and here are the leaderboards for the championship standings at the moment. In the Platinum class, we have Greg Gomez leading by 40 odd points from Alex Dobertsberger in P2. Tim Ellis in P3 with James Gill very close behind, with Stephen Williams rounding off that top 5, but that can change ever so quickly with those guys expecting to fight out at the front with all the already confirmed missing Brad Philpott this evening. In the gold class, we have Smithy in P1 leading from Sam Harper in P2 there, with David Hatton and a bit of a sizable lead between Alex and Sam at the moment, but as we know, it can change very quickly with Tero and Freak rounding off the top 5. And then finally the silver class, where we have Miguel leading in P1 with 144 points, 22 points exactly ahead of Alexandros in P2, with Sean Bennett not far behind and Dan as well. Very tight there throughout the silver class, and with 3 more races on offer this evening. Of course, with that reverse field after the first race, there is a lot on offer. And finally, our combined table, as we can see there, Bradley Philpott, who is technically an invitee to this championship, is leading at the moment, with Greg close behind and Alex in P3, Tim in P4 and Alex Smithy in P5 of the gold class, beating out a number of those who are in the platinum class. Of course, with Brad missing this evening, a number of those guys close behind are going to be seeing it as an opportunity to jump to the top of this combined table. So, not long until we have qualifying, and well, this is a track that I've already mentioned that I am a massive fan of. I love it here. It's in my top 3 on iRacing, and I'm a little bit gutted that I am commentating this evening, because it is a track that I would very much like to get out there and race on, particularly the Super Formula. I'm intrigued to see how these guys handle that high-powered car around this circuit, where I myself know a few areas to be wary of, particularly the first corner. You take a very fast entry speed down into the first corner that is a double apex. You have to be careful of that outside curb, because you can lose the car there. Now let's have a look further into this track exactly with Spanner's track guide.
Hello everyone, Spanners here. I'm going to take you on a hot lap, quote-unquote hot lap, of Suzuka, because I've yet to string together anything close to my ultimate split times. So every time I go around this track, I seem to put a wheel wrong somewhere. There's lots of 1x off tracks, so if you accumulate too many of those, you end up getting a drive-through penalty. That is a significant danger for me here. I feel like I understand the track, but when it comes to application, it is just so tricky. So let's cross the start-finish line and we'll head down towards turn 1. Slightly different approach between all 3 cars. In the F4 and the F3, we're going straight in, flat out, and waiting for that first slight apex at turn 1. Then borrow nearly everything out to the outside and then hug back in into turn 2, approaching the S's. F3 and F4 are flat over turn 3, maybe just a little bit of a lift into turn 4, and then flat out again into turn 5. Now in the F3 and the Super Formula, we're brushing the brakes here to put all the weight on the front left-hand side before we go up to Logan Sargent Corner, Dunlop, and you will see a lot of people binning it here, exactly where Logan Sargent did. Now, into the Degners, they are trying to put you into the wall. They're conscious, I swear. Slight dab of the brakes just to get the weight over that front left wheel again. Now, brake down a little bit harder and aim for the exit of the bridge. Use that curb, but no more, or it will treat you like a tram line and spit you into the wall. Flat out into turn 10, then hit the brakes hard for that hairpin, right down into second gear. Very different lines around the hairpin. Some people run it around the outside. I tend to hug the apex very close and try and get on that power in a nice straight pointy line. I didn't know turn 12 was a turn. You're flat out here as you go towards Spoon. Brake at that slight access path. Fourth gear, I think, in the F3. And then you have to adjust and then aim yourself again down into that second corner. It really feels like you want to take it as one corner, but you have to use discipline to separate it as you go up to the infamous 130R. Side-by-side racing is possible here in the F4 and the F3. It gets a bit sketchy towards the Super Formula, but you are flat out through there before you hit the chicane. So pick your braking point, different in each car, of course, and use these curbs. Abuse them, and then here as well, you want the inside curb and the outside curb to feel the wrath of your rubber as you complete yet another inconsistent lap of the Suzuka circuit.
Thank you, Spanners. What a great track guide that was. I'm definitely going to be using Dunlop Curb and renaming that as Logan Sargent's Corner from now on. I do suspect, as Spanners described there, that we will see guys just borrowing too much track on the outside there and dipping a wheel and unfortunately losing it. It is the nature of that corner. It is very inviting, but there's a number of corners here like Spoon Corner that we've just seen James Gill go through where you can just carry too much speed. It's so easy to do so. Drop a wheel and then spin the car on that outside curb, similar to 130R as well. So this track, while it's free flowing and it is an inviting track, it can bite you very, very quickly. But as it stands, we've only just over 3 minutes until the open qualifying session starts. We've got Luke and Danny who haven't set any further times. They seem to be quite happy with their pace. Of course, this is a track that many of this community would have raced many times in the weekly officials and watched, of course, only a few weeks ago in the F1 calendar as well. At least we have a dry race here this week, unlike most Suzuka races have been. But yes, I'm sure that will not stop us from having some drama this evening. Luke Power is back out on circuit with Danny Henney as well, just getting into the groove with not long until we start. But yes, the F4, let's talk a little bit about the F4 car. So as I said at the start, while this is the smallest in power of the three cars that we're going to be seeing race this evening, that doesn't take away from the amount of close racing we are going to see. That is the nature of this car. It really does promote close racing, but with that, it also does provide quite a high number of incidents as well. Personally, it's one of the most funnest cars on the platform and is why we see such a high participation rate in the weekly officials. And I think the community here as well, the Missed Apex, have thoroughly enjoyed it, maybe even more so than some of the high-powered cars. But F3, let's see what F3 has in store for us as well with that reverse grid. We know reverse grids always cause a little bit of drama, as we see Stephen Williams there just trying to find the limit of the car as he heads down into that treacherous T1. Let's see exactly what he did there. I think that was primarily just dipping a wheel on that outside curb. So it is definitely a corner to be wary of. Right, so not long until we start this qualifying session. Not sure who's going to be on pole position. We'll see if this track, unlike Charlotte Roval, we'll see if traffic comes into play here today. Not as many participants, I think, as we had at Charlotte Roval, but with more corners and with more opportunity for there to be incidents, could potentially affect those behind getting a clean lap in. But at the moment, out of the gold runners, we have a freak up there in P5 with Mark Greenhow in PA. Alex Smith will be looking for a good showing, but you can see there the top 12 are only separated by just a second. Actually, the whole field only separated by just 2.3 seconds pretty much down to P20. So if practice is anything to go by, qualifying is going to be really good. So let's get into it. Open qualifying coming up. And here we go. We are green, green, green. We can see the timing sheets there. All the time up at the top left-hand side of your screen is now counting down. We have just over 9.5 minutes with Tim Ellis wasting no time whatsoever to get out into that fresh air with those following in close suit. This is key for Tim. It is always a battle to be the first out there and ensure that you can not going to have any issues with those having incidents behind or any potential traffic. As we join on board here with Tim through Logan Sargent's corner, as we are now going to refer it to as he heads around here full throttle into the first Degner. Need to be careful of that curb on the inside there and the one on the outside also, and also on the exit of the second Degner. all those curbs are very treacherous, but also very inviting as he heads up into the sharp braking zone of the hairpin. Full throttle, need to be aggressive there and get on the power earlier than you think to maximize your entry, your exit speed all the way in the run up to Spoon Corner. But looking very dashing in that luminous yellow flame livery there with the blue. Goes quite nice and matching now. I assume that's so that he is noticed on the track when he is in a group of other cars, and definitely not going to struggle to see him there, that is for sure. And then as he's on the run up to 130R in these F4 cars, it is easy flat out through here. Need to be careful of that curb on the inside, and shouldn't have any issue with the car washing out to the outside curb there. It'll be very different in the Super Formula cars though. As I am speaking from experience, you can be very treacherous on the outside curb and end up in the wall. So let's go for an onboard lap with Tim as he is on his run down to the first corner. Let's see how he tackles this lap. He's going to be the first one to set a lap time here. So making all use of the entry as he can, all of the track, running to the outside curb and then getting it into the late apex there, using all of the track once again, then into the famous Senna S's, one of the most best combination of corners in the world, in my opinion, up there with Maggotts and Beckett's at Silverstone. And then it's all about keeping it tight to the apex and tight to the right hand side here so that you can maximize your throttle input through Dunlop curve a la Sargent Corner, and then all the way through to the Degner 1 here. Let's see how much curb he takes. He avoids it entirely, ensuring that he's not compromising his exit there, and no run off of the curb there through the second Degner. So into the tight hairpin, under braking. Let's see how early he gets on throttle, and he maximizes it well there, using all of the circuit. You know that he's at the very limit here, Tim. This is a good lap thus far in clean air. Now the run up to Spoon, trying to keep it as tight as possible to the inside, cover as little track as possible. How aggressive is he going to be? Very easy to pick up an off track here and ruin your lap entirely, but he's been very conservative there, not risking it whatsoever, trying to get a banker lap in. That is the all-important factor of a qualifying session. How hard do you push? An area that I am consistently falling down on, I must admit, and why I don't have much success in the Missed Apex Championship. Nice and flat through 130R. These F4 cars not carrying as much speed as the cars we'll see later on. All quite conservative there on the entry to the chicane. Could have taken a little bit more curb, got a bit of oversteer as well, but he has set a 2 minutes 5. So let's see how that does. And he's instantly pipped by Mark Greenhow, James Gill, and Stephen Williams, and Alex Dobertsberger. Maybe a little bit too conservative by Tim Ellis there. It was a good banker lap, but we'll see if he improves on that. But Danny Henney jumps to the timing sheets with our first sub 2 minute time with a 59.7. Apologies, Cole Power. Times absolutely flying in here as cars are very close together. Cole Power 59.7, beating Danny Henney's time by 700ths of a second, maybe getting a slight bit of assistance there from the car ahead of him. And yes, Luke Power there in P3 as well. Very, very tight at the top of the timing sheet. Top 9 separated by only 0.8 of a second. You can see Daniel Cook there in the silver class is currently in pole position for them, down in 9th place. But Mark Greenhow in P7 of the gold class has absolutely smashed it thus far out of those in who have set a lap time thus far. So we'll see if he's able to maintain that position, and that will give him a nice handy amount of points if he's able to finish ahead of those he is competing against in that class. So a good performance from him thus far. But this, we are only going to see lap times get better and better as these tyres warm up, as we've seen a spinner there just in front of Mark. That would have compromised his line. He would have probably had to have lifted there. Let's just have a look. Was it on the racing line? I imagine he probably would have lifted a little bit. Thankfully, that car did not stay on the racing line and cause and cause an incident there. Alex Smith trying to set a lap and improve on, unfortunately, what has not been a good first lap for him down in P16. But let's see if Mark Greenhow can improve here, or anyone else can improve. As we were saying just before that spinner by Alex Smith, the track is only going to get quicker and quicker as tyres get warmer and the fuel load gets lighter. So Alex Dobersberger jumps into P2, pipping Danny Henny. Is very, very close at the top there. Is Danny able to improve? He is not. A 59.7 from him, only 0.005 of a second slower than his first lap that he set. Super, super consistent. But look how tight it is between the top four. Less than 1/10 separating the top four. This is uber close here. And, well, we are with 3 minutes remaining. I think we have enough for one more lap after this. 2 time laps remaining from those who are out on circuit at the moment. So we'll see if that is going to change, if the order is going to change. Is James going to improve? Is anyone from the gold class going to improve? Spanner's down there in P12, 1.5 seconds behind. Smithy needs a good one. Thankfully, no one tagged him when he was spinning, moving away from the racing line. So he should be able to at least get an improvement lap on the one that he's currently set down in 19th position at the moment, just slightly ahead of Trumpets. But this is a very, very close qualifying session at the moment. So Carl still in P1 with that first lap that he set to 59.7. Luke Power 0.36 seconds behind him at the moment. Very, very nice gold livery there by Trumpets. I do have a soft spot for gold with my own livery, so that definitely gets the A star for me. Well done, Trumpets. Well done. But as we have 2 minutes remaining of this qualifying session, let's see are the leaders improving on their time. We're on board with Luke Power, who is chasing down, and he's let Carl go through, I believe that is. So maybe he's giving him a tow. The family members here working together, possibly. We will see. Or maybe it's roles reversed and Carl is now going to give the tow to Luke. And as he possibly did earlier on in this race, for him to get that provisional pole position. But at the moment, no one else is able to improve, as what I believe is now going to be their last lap. As Carl loses it. Carl loses it into turn one, and with that, massively compromises Luke's T1 as well in his lap, and Luke will most definitely not be improving there. That is for sure. He didn't need that from his uncle. Wow, that's not how you return the favour, Carl, whatsoever. So Luke now really just has to hope that those behind him do not improve. Alex Dobersberger just close behind, as well as Danny. Possibly even Stephen and Tim will improve as well, and James Gill. They're no slouches. Let's see how Alex gets on as we're on board with him now. Seems to be getting a tow. He's just close enough to the car in front of him to be able to get a tow and drag him along here. And that's going to be all important as he heads down through into Spoon Corner and through 130R. Let's see how far on the limit he is. Very, very close there. His right wheels teetering on the edge of that red and white curve of Spoon Corner. He is going all out here. And it's full throttle all the way through 130R. It's pretty much not even a corner 130R now these days in the open wheel cars. But let's see how aggressive he is going to be over the all-important last chicane. Is he going to attack those curves? Is he potentially going to lose it? He is in currently P3. And he attacks it quite heavily. Very aggressive over those curves there. Let's see what time he is able to set as he comes across the finish line with the checkered flag out. Is he going to be able to improve? A 1:59.9, no. So Carl Power at the moment is still in provisional pole. Danny Henny, is he able to improve as well? He is. Danny Henny, 0.002 of a second, just misses out on pole position to Carl Power, who set that lap time first time around. Oh my God, what a qualifying session we have just had. And unfortunately, Carl Power, well, fortunately for Carl Power, actually, he has compromised his nephew's lap time there, and he has got pole position. I think there might be a steward's inquiry after this race for that incident. I'm calling it now, but yeah, we'll see if the race unfolds differently. But yes, Carl Power is your pole position for the F4 race this evening, the first race we have of the 3 tonight. Danny Henny in P2 by only 0.02 of a second. Luke Power 0.03 of a second behind Carl. With Alex Dobbelsberger 0.07 of a second behind. Less than 1/10 separating the top 4 is unbelievable. Stephen Williams also improving there in the last lap to round off the top 5. And Mark Greenhow in P7, the best of the gold class, with Daniel Cook the best of the silver class. And Smithy, who is leading the gold class at this moment in time, did improve after that spin in Spoon Corner down in P10. What a race we have in store for this first race tonight, guys. So pole position is Carl Power, Danny Henny lining up alongside him, Luke Power 3rd, Alex Dobbelsberger 4th, Stephen Williams 5th, James Gill 6th, Mark Greenhouse 7th, Tim Ellis 8th, Daniel Cook 9th, Smithy 10th, Jose in 11th, Sean Bennett in 12th, Frigg in 13th, Andrew Sexton in 14th, Tero in 15th, Spanners 16th, Daniel Snortland 17th, Tom Jenkinson 18th. And we have Nick Alexander in 20th, Stephen Rubens 21st. We have Miguel Morland in 22nd, Trumpets 23rd, Adrian Clark 24th, Stephen Taylor 25th, and Christopher Holsworth in 26th. Rounding off this grid for Suzuka, the lights are on, and it is... Away we go, it's green, and we are heading down into the first corner there. A couple of slow starters at the back of the grid, but no incidents thus far, as Danny Henny has launched ahead of Carl Power down into the first corner, and Luke Power has lost a couple of positions there after starting 3rd. Will he be able to maintain any of those positions as he heads into the centre S's, where it gets very, very tight here? Lots of room and respect needs to be given, otherwise it can end very, very badly. But everyone doing very well thus far to get through the first sector nice and cleanly. But the big news there is that Danny Henny has jumped ahead of Carl into turn 1 and is now in P1. Alexander Dobbelsberger and Stephen Williams and James Gill gained a position on Luke Power, who has dropped down from 3rd place to 6th. A good start there by Mark in P7. And, well, Luke, what can he do here? That's a poor start from him. Not quite sure exactly what happened, as we see Stephen Williams James Gill, going for a move on Stephen Williams up the inside of the hairpin as they go side by side now on the run up to Spoon Corner. Not quite got the drive in this F4 car. Lesser torque in this car than you do in the F3 and the Super Formula car, as we go on board with him for the first time through Spoon Corner. It's all important to get this exit right and maximise your throttle on the exit so that you can gain that top speed all the way through to the chicane. Unfortunately for James Gill is that Stephen is close behind Alex Dobbelsberger in front, who will be towing him along as well, as we're heading to the end of this first lap this evening. And let's see if James Gill goes for a late lunge a la George Russell on Stephen Williams. No, too far back, but he's got a very good exit there on the chicane. So we'll see if there's any moves. And actually, Luke Power is close behind him, as well as Carl on Danny Henny as well. Let's see if Carl was going to go for a move down into turn 1, which we know is quite difficult to defend on. But no, Carl wasn't able to get close behind, get alongside Danny enough there, as Luke is looking for a move on James Gill, as James Gill did have to go defensive there. And Luke looking to recover after losing those positions earlier on in the race. But he is definitely kind of separated James here, definitely from Stephen in front, while he's forced him out of position to defend into turn one. And that is the all-essential key here, really, at Suzuka, is to try and remove the car in front from the toe of that car ahead of them, so that you're then able to benefit from that extra speed that you gain in the slipstream. So Luke does seem to be closing on James here. Needs to be careful not to run into the back of him. It can get very close in the braking zones at Suzuka as they head through the hairpin. And it does seem that Alex Dobersberger's closed up on Kyle as they head down into Spoon Corner. They need to pick their moments here at these front three, or especially those behind Danny Henny, because if they lose any time whatsoever through the corners going side by side, that's only going to benefit Danny here and will allow him to just pull away from those behind. And I imagine it will be quite a simple win for Danny. So we'll see if there's any tactics that is played here, as we have quite a considerable amount of time left in this race. While you want to gain positions, you also don't want to do it at the cost of potentially losing any further positions, as Alex gets a great run on Carl here, but has to back out a little bit. And we also have Luke going side by side up the inside of James Gill. Very, very respectful from the both of them. Seen plenty of crashes there in my time, but both of them went side by side through that corner, unlike George Russell and Oscar Piastri a few weeks ago. And, well, James Gill is going to be able to come back at Luke here, as he's tucked up right close behind him, as are the top three as well, as Carl has been able to hold off Alex there, who went side by side into the chicane. And Carl just still not able to make a move on Danny Henny. He is in a sandwich at the moment where he's focusing ahead, but also having to drive in his mirrors. And this is just allowing Stephen Williams to close up the gap here. And if these four start fighting, also only going to benefit Luke and James to close the gap also, as well as far back as Tim. That is the greatness of this F4 car, where it's very difficult for the leaders to ever pull away and gain what they have, potentially any pace advantage that they have. Because if you battle, it just brings those closer behind, because the field spread is never usually that large in these cars. So heading down into the hairpin once again, Alex getting very close onto the rear of Carl Power, but as we've already mentioned, Carl is still getting the benefit of that toe from Danny in front. If he didn't have that toe, I think he'd definitely be a sitting duck. But it does seem Danny's just putting out a bit of a gap on Kyle as they headed out of the hairpin there. Alex is much, much closer, that is for sure. All about the exit here, and this could be a very, very tasty heading through 130R and into the chicane. But let's see what Kyle does to defend here as we go on board with Alex Dobersberger. Going to make a move through 130R. Is he going to be patient? Does he have enough gain in here? And I think at the moment, Carl goes defensive to the inside, and it's very, very difficult. Carl is getting... there's contact! There's contact, and I think Alex Dobersberger has got a bit of front wing damage there. Let's see that again, and it's just under braking as... it does look like Carl has just slightly moved under braking there, as Alex was braking into a straight line. Let's have a look at it once again. And unfortunately, I think Alex may have got away without damage there, but that is very unlike Carl Power to get a bit out of shape and move slightly under braking. We'll have to see that at the end, but that has left Carl vulnerable to Stephen Williams now, as Carl importantly has lost the toe from Danny Henny. This is ideal for Danny, who is looking for redemption after round 2 at Charlotte Roval and capitalise on Brad Philpott's absence this week. It's surely only a matter of time, really, you think, until Stephen Williams gets past him. But sometimes being this close to the car ahead is not ideal. You want a bit of a gap behind so that you can focus on that draft. But Stephen is now in a similar position to what Carl was a few laps ago. He is now in that sandwich, and all the while, this is just allowing Luke and James to gradually close up the gap on these leaders. So stay tuned, guys. It is definitely more drama going to occur for us. A little bit further down the grid, we have Mark Greenhouse still in pole position for leading the gold class in P8, with Daniel Cook likewise following Mark closely, who is leading quite comfortably 2 positions ahead of Tom Jenkinson, who is second in the silver class at the moment. So those two going quite nicely, and we'll see, actually, Daniel might have an opportunity on Mark to get ahead of the gold class leader. Very, very close. Very, very close here, though, with the front, with the top 10, that is for sure. A bit of a gap forming between Spanners, who is up in P11. But Steve Williams going for a move on Kyle Power here into the chicane as Kyle just runs out of room a little bit. And I think Kyle here is now, unfortunately, been forced out as Alex Dubbersberger is going to get the toe from Stephen Williams in front, and Kyle is out of the slipstream of the car ahead. But we do see that Luke Power has, with all of that, has tucked up very close behind Alex Dubbersberger. They need to be very careful here not to cause incidents as they head down into T1. Kyle tries to hang it round the outside. His nephew on the inside here. Is he going to be able to get past his uncle? And he doesn't. He gives him a little bit more of respect there. And this is very, very close racing. But Kyle there losing another couple of positions there in the space of 2 corners. And he's now down into P4 after being on pole position at the start of this race. And all the while this has occurred, this has allowed Danny to build up a 2-second lead to those ahead, as we seeing Steve Williams just having a couple of connection issues, it seems. And hopefully that is not the case here, because Stephen is on for a great result at the moment, as he is putting a gap on Alex Dubbersberger, as he is having to drive in his mirrors for sure, with Kyle Power and Luke and James Gill close behind, as Luke goes for a move on the inside of Kyle. And is he able to get the move stuck? I'm not so sure, as Kyle Power on the outside there, straight line in his exit, has been able to get on the throttle. But Luke is just on the inside. Is he going to get? No, he loses that extra drive that Kyle got there out of the hairpin. And once again, this has benefited the car ahead, as Alex has just been able to pull out a slight little gap on Kyle. And Luke now has to focus on James Gill, who's very close behind, but we know will be chomping at the bit after gaining that position on Luke at the start of this race to losing it. He is gaining here. You can see it's so close, Alonso-esque, as he waits to the last second to pull out of the slipstream. But with Luke getting the slipstream of Kyle ahead, but that has carried him some extra speed as he headed through 130R. They went side by side cleanly through the chicane last time around, and they've done it once again. But will James be able to defend from Luke as they head down into T1, as Luke is very much tucked up behind him? It's a very draft-dependent car, this, and we'll see if Luke is going to be able to return the favour and regain that position down into T1. He's definitely going for it. But this corner is a beautiful corner, turn 1. It makes it, you can pick your line, and sometimes the outside line is the more preferred option to defend. It doesn't seem like it, but you carry more speed and can brake later, as James just exampled and demonstrated for us perfectly. But Luke Power still all over the back of James here. James really needs to close up the gap to Carl to get the benefit of that toe. He needs to be within that 7/10 of Carl ahead of him to get that draft, which currently he's not going to be able to get. And Danny Henney in P1 is 1.8 seconds ahead of Stephen Williams, but Stephen Williams is just closing the gap ever so slightly on Danny Henney. With Alex Dubbersberger very close behind here. We'll see if there's going to be any tactics now. Are the guys going to be patient until the last couple of laps of this race? They can potentially close down on Danny. Alex and Carl are very old foxes, and they will know that if they can see that they're gaining on the leader, they're not going to risk losing time on that car up ahead by fighting. So a little bit further down the grid, we rejoin Mark and Daniel, both leading their respective classes here in the gold and silver class. And Daniel very, very close behind Mark as they're heading through 130R. Is he going to be able to make a move on the gold class leader as they head into the chicane? Oh, he thought about it, but didn't really know which way to go. And Mark locks up. Has that compromised his exit? It has, but these F4 cars don't have a lot of torque, and that normal cutback in a more powered open wheel car, you would see you would see Daniel really breeze past Mark now, but Mark here is going to be able to defend on the inside. But will we see Daniel take that more aggressive outside line and outbrake Mark on the outside? He's gone all the way around the outside here. They're side by side through the first corner, and Daniel nearly made it stick. Very, very respectful racing from them, and respectful racing from everyone throughout. What great racing this is. This is Suzuka, guys, at its best. F4 really does bring out the best of some of these GP circuits, that is for sure, as Alex is now on the back of Stephen. It is non-stop action here in this first race this evening in the F4 class. Hopefully the F3 and Super Formula can replicate what we're seeing thus far. But Danny, while Stephen has had to focus on Alex just closing that gap, we are seeing Danny benefit from this, pulling out a 2-second gap. It does close under braking into the slower corners, but Danny does seem to be on the exit with that Constantina effect that we see, just regain that gap of around 2 seconds. So barring a very silly mistake from Danny out on his own, which we very rarely see, it does seem like that he is going to be the winner of this first race, and it'll be a race of redemption from him after the not so good showing in round 2. But Carl, much closer to Alex here as they head through 130R. It's a very difficult corner, 130R, in the exit of Spoon, because the problem is with Carl at the moment is that he has to pick his moment to attack Alex. He needs to catch him more off guard than anything, as Alex is in two minds here. Does he go for a move on Stephen, or does he go for an overtake on Carl Power? But attacking the curves there too aggressively has unsettled the car, and that's given Carl Power a drive. But what is benefiting Alex here is that he's able to stay within the toe of Stephen in front, but maybe Carl now on his outside is getting the benefit of that toe. And will he be able to defend it down into the first corner? Carl going to be aggressive here. No, Carl doesn't go for that late braking. An aggressive move on the outside, a bit too kind there, if you ask me, Carl, on Alex. But thinking of the long game, still 3 laps remaining after this lap is completed, and I suppose there is time still to be had to make up positions on those ahead of him. But James Gill still ahead of Luke Power, who's very close behind him as well. Tim Ellis not just able to close up on this top pack, but you know that he'll be ready to pounce if there is any opportunities ahead of him. All it takes is these cars to go side by side through a couple of corners, and Tim will be right in that fight, as Luke is all over the back of James. Is he going to make a move up the inside down into the hairpin? He does. He goes for that late move. James sees it. He nearly runs into the back of his uncle there as they went into the hairpin. That is the danger of making an overtake at that hairpin. Very aggressive there, but lovely to see it. These two have been fighting side by side and very cleanly all race, which is what you love to see. As they make contact there, they make contact. Luke Power just misjudging it slightly, moves over into James Gill's line as he was holding the outside line there. Just a slight misjudgment, and thankfully, commentators curse. As I said, they were racing cleanly. That happened right on cue. But yes, James Gill, I think rightfully so, has regained that position from Luke Power there as they were heading into Spoon Corner. It's a shame that we didn't get to see them go side by side. As just previously mentioned, Tim Ellis, that's what he wanted. That's what he wanted, as James Gill once again goes a little bit slow over the curves of the last chicane, and that has given Luke Power a right old run here as they head down into the first corner. Which line is he going to pick? He's going to pick the inside line here. Is this key? We've seen James Gill make an overtake on the outside, and James Gill gives the position, but he needs to be careful because Tim Ellis almost saw an opportunity to slide up the inside there as well. And this has just been great fighting. I'm so glad that those two were able to continue this battle after that contact they made heading into Spoon Corner. Because this has got a dramatic ending to this race as James Gill gets a little bit out of shape as he's having to look in his rearview mirrors at Tim Ellis, and Tim is eyeing up the top 6 here as they head into the final laps of this race. Danny still leading comfortably by 1.7 to 2 second lead. It keeps going out to from Stephen Williams, who's having a great race up there in P2, with the gaps starting to spread out a little bit now between those behind Danny, with Stephen, Alex and Kyle. We'll see if those are able to close up any further. But Stephen, this is really good for him with a 7/10 gap to Alex. It's around 7 to 8. It's around just under 7/10 when the toe starts to come into effect, which Alex has seemed to have been able to get done there under braking into Spoon Corner. As it almost looked like Stephen on throttle there got a little bit, almost looked like he was drifting through the exit of Spoon Corner there. Maybe that's just my eyes deceiving me. But we'll see how much. Look at these guys all line by line here. The top 7, not a lot separating them, only 4.5 seconds separating the top 7 here in this first race this evening. James Gill is close behind Luke Power once again. He has to be careful of the attacking Tim Ellis, who is looking to take an opportunity, and there's very much equal gaps there. 3/10 between Luke, James and Tim as they head into 2 laps remaining. We're on the penultimate lap now. It is Danny in P1, Stephen Williams in P2, Alex Dobbsberger in P3, Carl 4th, Luke Power 5th, James Gill 6th, Tim Ellis 7th, and I can't pick where this top 7 are going to finish. Daniel Cook is he's going around the outside. He's tried that move once before, and he makes the move on Mark Greenhow. The silver class leader in this race has made a move on the gold class leader, and these two, while of course they're trying to get as many points possible for their respective divisions, they have to be careful to not throw those positions away, and what would be a good result for them in the first race this evening. But what a move. Daniel finally got it done. He attempted it a few laps ago, and we've seen that outside line in this F4 car really work down into T1. It is a very satisfying move, making a late overtake, a late break, and on the power around the outside into T1. It's one of the satisfying moves in sim racing and in the world of motorsport. So here's James Gill very close behind Luke Power now. Only one more opportunity after this, down in the run through 130R. So ideally, you do want track position heading into the last lap. Will James have an opportunity down into the chicane here, or at least force Luke into a mistake into that chicane, which we've seen these two chopping and changing and trading positions all race. He is gaining, he's gaining, he's gaining. Is he going to force Luke into a defensive move here? Is he going to go for a George Russell move? No, he's not. He's thinking about down into T1. Does seem like that James got a little bit of a better ride over the curbs there. And Carl Power does seem to be dropping back slightly to give his nephew a tow, a la Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. We have no DRS available in this car, but it does seem that Carl Power has quite considerably dropped back to his nephew to potentially give him a supporting tow here from the charging James Gill, because James is all over the back of him. The gap has closed between Danny Henney, who is 1.5 seconds, to Stephen Williams, but it does seem to be pretty much in control here. But let's see, is this Carl Power returning the favour after compromising Luke's last run in qualifying by spinning it at turn 1? Let's see. It's not so much going to be all important here down into the hairpin, but it definitely is going to be effective down into Spoon Corner and through 130R and that game. So here we go, only half a lap remaining. It is Danny Henney leading from Stephen Williams, Alex Dobbsberger in P3. It does seem like that Stephen Williams and Alex Dobbsberger are quite comfortable in their podium positions, barring a mistake from those in the last couple of corners. Carl Power has dropped back just slightly to give his nephew a tow there in P4 and 5. And importantly, that has given Luke Power the opportunity to stay ahead of James Gill for now. But here is where it's going to matter. Let's see what happens. So Danny Henney up ahead in P1. It has been a very good performance from him, as I've mentioned numerous times already. After round 2, it was a shocking night for him that ended very prematurely, and he started round 3 in Mr. Philpott's absence the perfect way as he goes for the chicane one last time and is your winner for the first race this evening in the F4. Danny Henney wins the F4 race in P1. It's very close behind him as Stephen Williams comes across the line in P2 with Alex Dobbsberger rounding off the podium position. Carl Power in 4th, Luke Power in 5th, James Gill in 6th, and Tim Ellis in P7. And let's grab Danny in for a interview. Mr. Henny, what a win. How was that, buddy?
Yeah, it was good. It's been a while, or it feels like it's been a while. It was, good race. Pretty intense with the pace, but once I managed to get a bit of a gap, I knew I had to do a push lap to try and get it up around the 1.5 seconds to get out the toe. And then after that, it was just trying to match Steve's lap times and have a bit of a gap to take it easy on the last lap. But yeah, I was certainly sweating a bit.
A perfect way to start this evening, and a race of redemption after round 2, buddy. So a great race from you, and yes, we have the F3 next, so let's see what that has in store for you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. So here are the final standings of race 1 this evening in the F4 car. Danny Henny finishes in P1 after starting 2nd on the grid, getting ahead of Carl Power down into that first corner. We have Stephen Williams making up a nice few positions there, starting 5th on the grid in P2. Alex Dobbsberger rounds off the podium positions, finishing ahead of Carl Power, and Luke, who started 3rd on the grid, finishes in 5th. James Gill, very, very close fighting between him and Luke Power, but Luke Power gets the better of him as he finishes in 6th. Tim Ellis 7th. And then we have Mark Greenhow, who did regain that position from Daniel Cook there on the last lap. Those two at the top of their classes in this race, gold and silver respectively. Good fighting between those in 8th and 9th. Jose finishes in 10th with Frick in 11th or 2nd in the gold class. Spanners finishes in 12th. Tom Jenkinson 13th. Daniel Snortland in 14th. Miguel Morland in 15th. Nick Alexander in 16th. Tero Titus in 17th. Trumpets down there in 18th. And then we have Steve Rubens in 19th and Adrian Clark in 20th, who will be starting on reverse pole for the next race in the F3 car. Andrew Sexton just misses out on that reverse pole in P21. Sean Bennett in 22nd. Colton Myers 23rd. Stephen Taylor 24th. Christopher Holsworth in 25th. And unfortunately, a race to forget for Alex Smithy, the leader of the gold class, down in 26th position. We'll be back shortly, guys, for the next race, which is in the F3 car. If that first race is anything to go by, we're in for a cracker. So stay tuned.